Welcome to the deep dive. We've got this great stack of sources from Andrew Kagan, a really curated collection of technical updates.
Yeah, it's quite the list.
And our mission, as always, is pretty simple. Pull out the critical shifts, maybe the surprising bits, the strategic stuff, so you get the core knowledge without, drowning in details.
And this stack, I mean, it really covers the gamut.
Yeah.
From Azure foundations right through to, well, some pretty niche coding ideas.
Right.
It's an indispensable snapshot, I think, of where things are moving.
Right.
And if there's one theme tying it all together, it's got to be AI. But not just AI as a tool anymore, it's shifting towards being an autonomous agent.
Mm-hmm.
And that impacts, well, everything. Infrastructure development, security especially.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to understand, not just what's new, but why it matters strategically. So we'll move quickly, but pause on the jargon or the really key concepts. We need to know what to watch out for.
Okay.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Let's unpack this. We start where a lot of modern computing starts, right? The infrastructure backbone, Azure. We saw the usual updates, October 31st, general stuff. But here's where the workload complexity really becomes clear. This focus on powering distributed AML at scale with Azure plus AnyScale.
Right. And what's fascinating here, I think, is Microsoft explicitly leaning on AnyScale, which, powers Ray, the open source framework.
Okay.
This isn't just about scaling up VMs anymore. This partnership, it signals that the massive GPU workloads needed for today's ML models, they're pushing past maybe what Azure's native stuff can easily handle alone.
So it's kind of an admission that for the really demanding, complex, multi-node AI training, the kind that needs like hundreds of GPUs managed elastically, they need something specialized.
Pretty much. Like Ray integrated deeply. It really speaks volumes, I think, about the sheer computational intensity, this whole AI arms race.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. Scale isn't just add more VMs now. It's solving this architectural nightmare, really, of distributed computing for these super high-demand specialized workloads.
Okay. So from the foundation, let's move up to the tools people actually interact with every day. Microsoft 365.
Right.
Saw the usual M365 maturity model updates, Exchange Online. But the clear headline grabber, and it ties right into that autonomy theme, is this new capability in Copilot, introducing researcher with computer use.
Yeah, this computer use distinction, that's the real inflection point here. Previous versions of Copilot were more contained.
Contained, yeah, like just in the app window or something.
Exactly. They might analyze a Word doc you open, respond in chat. But an agent with computer use,
Yeah.
that's fundamentally different. It implies a significantly higher degree of, well, operational independence.
You're saying it graduates from being an assistant to being an agent.
Precisely. Yeah, it can do complex multi-step tasks that need it to interact with the OS environment. So moving outside that M365 bubble.
Like what? What kind of things?
Think browsing the web on its own, maybe logging into another system to grab data, or starting a new task based on something it just did, all without constant human prompting. It's shifting from just language processing to like active operation within your whole ecosystem.
Okay, wow. And if we acknowledge that the AI agent is now an active operator, well, that must dramatically change how we look at security, right? Permissions.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now this researcher has its own identity, essentially.
You hit the nail on the head. We'll definitely get deeper into the security side later, but yeah, that's crucial.
All right. Now let's look at how that autonomy is landing in the low-code world. Power Platform and Dynamics 365.
Okay.
We saw efforts trying to blend citizen development with pro-code, like enhancing Power Platform solutions with pro-code. Makes sense. But two items really show that AI maturation happening fast.
Yeah, the first one is about stability, really.
Yeah.
Generative pages in Power Apps are now GA, general availability.
Right, GA.
And for you, the listener, GA, that's a huge signal. It basically means the feature is stable, fully tested, ready for production use. So the ability to automatically spin up functional app pages just from data or maybe a chat prompt,
Yeah.
that's not experimental anymore. It's becoming foundational for the platform.
Okay, so it's ready for prime time. And the second item, tying back to autonomy.
That's the new auto triage AI agent in Copilot Studio.
Auto triage agent.
Yeah, this is AI handling complex decision-making within workflows. So instead of just, say, drafting an email reply or summarizing a ticket,
Right.
this auto triage agent is figuring out severity, deciding which team gets the picket, maybe fetching background info, all autonomously. It's a major step towards taking over internal operational decisions, not just, helping with communication.
Taking over decisions. Okay, let's move on to the infrastructure and development side then. DevOps, SRE infrastructure. We're seeing some new concepts emerge here to handle this autonomous push, like this intriguing article title, Vibe Coding Prompts Are All You Need.
Ah, vibe coding.
Yeah.
It's an experimental approach, basically using an LLM to generate big chunks of code through really rapid conversational prompts.
Okay.
The emphasis is on flow, quick experimentation, just getting functionality out there fast. It's kind of like prompt-driven development, but maybe in its most fluid,
Uh-huh.
possibly chaotic hot form.
Wait, hang on. If vibe coding emphasizes flow over meticulous correctness, isn't that just sloppy coding that someone has to clean up later? How does that not create huge technical debt, or worse, security holes?
That is the critical trade-off.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely. It's potentially fantastic for prototyping, getting initial velocity, solving that blank page problem.
Yeah.
But it absolutely relies on strong governance and, crucially, human review afterwards. And that reliance on external stuff immediately connects us to the standard that sort of makes vibe coding even feasible. MCP, the Model Context Protocol.
MCP Model Context Protocol, what exactly is that?
Think of MCP as like the formalized API contract.
Hmm.
It lets an AI, maybe one doing vibe coding, safely and reliably access external data, tools, services. It provides the necessary context, the rules of the road for the LLM to operate beyond its own training data.
I see.
Without something like MCP, that generative AI, whether it's vibe coding or the Copilot researcher we talked about, it can't really safely or effectively do multi-step tasks out in the real world.
Okay, that makes sense. And it leads us straight into the next area, pure AI territory, data, analytics, and AI. If these agents are using MCP to get external data, we have to talk retrieval. And we saw this key comparison, GraphRag versus SQLRag.
Right. This is where your data strategy really meets AI performance head-on. RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. That's the essential technique models use to pull in external up-to-date knowledge to make their answers better, more current.
Okay.
The question here is, how do you structure that external knowledge base for the AI?
So we're comparing traditional relational databases, SQL, with structures that focus more on connections, relationships, graphs.
Exactly. SQL RAGs pulling from tables, columns, great for querying specific facts. GraphRag pulls from highly interconnected data points. So if your LLM needs to understand complex relationships, think dependency chains, supply routes, social networks, maybe that graph structure is potentially exponentially more valuable than a flat relational table.
So this raises a big question then. For companies wanting the best AI insights, does this RAG evolution, does it finally become the killer app that forces them to tackle that massive job, shifting their data infrastructure away from traditional relational models towards graphs?
It's definitely forcing the issue. I mean, if your AI agents can only give you okay results because your data is stuck in silos and relational models,
Right.
eventually the competitive pressure is going to mandate that strategic shift, I think.
Yeah, that's a strategic pivot that definitely keeps CIOs up at night. And okay, if we give these AI agents all this autonomy, this external access via MCP security has to keep pace immediately.
Right.
Which brings us to security, compliance, and privacy. We saw specific threats mentioned, like Azure Hound enumeration attacks across Entra ID. But the big picture item that jumps out is identity security in the age of autonomous AI agents.
And this connects literally everything we've just discussed. The second that M365 researcher or the auto triage agent gets autonomy via MCP, it gets an identity in your system.
Right, it needs credentials.
Exactly. And that identity, those credentials, they are now a new prime target for attackers. Security is pivoting. It's moving from mostly protecting human identities to now also protecting these digital agent identities.
And speaking of protection, this section highlighted, going back to basics, right? With the Cryptography for Beginners full Python course. Why are fundamentals like SHA 256, AES, RSA suddenly top of mind again with AI autonomy?
Well, because if these agents are operating independently, they're communicating sensitive data between systems, right? They're moving data across networks.
Okay.
We have to secure those autonomous transactions, and we need non-negotiable standards. AES, for instance, gold standard for symmetric encryption, protects data at rest in transit between agents. RSA handles the secure digital signatures, proving the agent sending the data is who it claims to be. These aren't just theory. They're the immediate tools needed to secure that agent-to-agent pipeline.
So the complexity of AI forces us back to doubling down on the proven foundational tools of cybersecurity.
Exactly. The old stuff becomes the new cutting edge, in a way.
Interesting. Okay, shifting gears. The newsletter also recognizes that skills need to evolve with the tech. That brings us to learning and certifications.
Yeah, lots of resources listed.
And the array here really reflects the breadth of skills needed now. Everything from foundational stuff like NumPy for absolute beginners to enterprise tools like Exa Outlook for beginners, both notably with Copilot tips integrated.
What really stands out, I think, is the sheer range of mastery required. You see resources covering low-level specific dev skills like the introduction to Sentinel Data Lake for developers, all the way up to really strategic executive training like the board-level cybersecurity risk communication aimed at CISOs.
So the message for you, the learner, seems clear. Continuous learning now means operating at multiple levels simultaneously. You need the fundamentals, you need to know how to use AI tools like Copilot in everyday apps, and you need to be able to talk about existential risk to the board.
Yep, you need to be kind of full stack, strategically aware, and AI enabled. It's the new reality for technical professionals, I guess.
It really is. Okay, finally, let's wrap with the broader industry news and trends. We saw the confirmed root cause for an Azure outage, always interesting. And this curious thing, the ASUS router with on-device AI processor plus Docker compute, edge processing getting serious.
Yeah, that router is interesting, but let's focus on maybe the two biggest macro shifts here, things that affect the very definition of computing.
Okay, what are they?
First, the fundamental science shift. That report on the quantum light breakthrough could transform computing. This is the horizon stuff. Points to research moving way beyond current semiconductor limits, a potential total transformation of hardware maybe the next decade or so.
Wow, okay, that's big picture. And second,
Second reflects the sort of political reality of deploying AI globally. Microsoft expands sovereign Copilot data processing controls.
sovereign controls, data localization.
Exactly. If you connect this to the bigger picture, it just underscores that intense global regulatory pressure. Governments, regulated industries, they demand assurances that data processing happens strictly within specific geographic sovereign boundaries, even for super powerful centralized AI like Copilot. This isn't just a feature anymore, it's a geopolitical mandate. It determines where and how AI can even be deployed. Oh, and we should briefly mention Snowflake launches multi-document intelligence beyond. Beyond RAG just shows how fast even that information retrieval tech is evolving.
Right. Okay, so just to recap this deep dive,
Yeah.
we saw the emergence of autonomous agents like that M365 researcher,
Yeah.
new development styles like vibe coding popping up, the data structures needed like GraphRag, and this renewed focus on foundational security like crypto to manage it all.
Yeah, the stack definitely confirms AI autonomy is accelerating. It's pushing new methods like vibe coding, but also, paradoxically, forcing everyone back to basics like AES and RSA to secure that autonomy. But, this leaves us with a final thought, something to mull over. The glossary in the source material define the agent-to-agent protocol, A2A. Basically, enabling AI agents to interact and collaborate directly, seamlessly.
Agent to agent. Okay.
So if our tech stack is relying more and more on these independent, collaborating AI agents operating through A2A, how fast do organizations need to pivot their entire security posture, moving from protecting human logins and network edges to rigorously protecting the identities, the communications, the digital signatures of these autonomous agents?
Securing the conversation between two computers where neither is human.
That's the next great security challenge, I think.
That is a fundamental challenge for everyone building and securing tech right now. A lot to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive, taking the shortcut to get up to speed on the week's critical tech shifts.
Good stuff.
Until next time, keep exploring.